From stomping on another player's head to another trying to end his opponent's career. These are the dirtiest moves in NFL history. And first up, we've got non-violent, unsportsmanlike conduct, which a lot of the time is just disgusting stuff that doesn't even get caught.
Today, it was quarterback's leg stayed well enough to...
Digging for gold and passing your fine to your coach has to be some kind of foul, right? It is. But usually refs only care if it's against the other team. Because even though Dak Prescott spat at Jalen Carter first, the refs only saw Jalen do it. And that type of disrespect was enough to warrant a penalty and an ejection. To be fair, the idea is to maintain order and respect, because if the refs just let someone absolutely disrespect the team or crowd, things could get violent. So they gotta deter escalation, like flagging Isaiah Crowell for this celebration.
He's got a couple, and that'll draw a flag every time.
Honestly, the most shocking thing about that clip is that Joe Buck didn't have a stroke, but he definitely would have flipped if he saw Jameson Williams selling. Now that is some unsportsmanlike conduct. Hilarious, but also insane. And it didn't just get him a foul. He also got handed a $25,000 fine for it, which seems a little extra, but the other option is escalating into a brawl. And when you make more money than most CEOs, I'd say it's better to take fine and move on. But if you have the emotional control of a 5-year-old, that's when violent unsportsmanlike conduct happens. And this one is weird. See, there's not an actual separation between non-violent and violent you see in the NFL handbook. So they just put out-of-pocket taunts in the same category as Quay Walker shoving trainers like it's a side hustle. Obviously, the difference is that violence gets you ejected, which is something Ndamukong Suh is fairly familiar with, because Suh seems like he's allergic to respecting other players.
The deep back. Dolphins are offside, and Ndamukong Suh comes slamming in, grabs Ryan Mallett by the throat, and shoves him back.
But that chokeout on Ryan Mallett isn't even his greatest offense. In 2011, well after the play was over, he legit tried to break Dietrich Smith's arm.
There it is. I mean, first of all, as he's trying to get up, but Ndamukong Suh clearly, kicks him. Officials right there.
That one sent him straight to the locker room. But ejections for violent UC weren't always in effect, because as recently as 2006, Howard Hainsworth trying to scalp Albert Gerard also counted as unsportsmanlike conduct.
Right there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's uncalled for, man.
That is unbelievable.
That stop required 30 stitches, and Hainsworth wasn't even kicked out of the game for it. But after the flag, he took off his helmet, smashed it down, and that got the ejection. I kind of feel like taking someone's forehead off should have gotten him there faster, but I'm no NFL ref. These days, though, it seems like anyone can do it. All you gotta do is make calls against the team you're not betting on and ignore everything else. Because refs miss a lot of dirty plays. But a random one they missed with Mac Jones was his ankle twist on Brian Burns.
Under pressure, it gets hit. The ball is loose at the 40.
Dude was twisting that ankle like he was trying to break open a safe, but even on the review of the play, he still wasn't penalized or fined. That's because referee Clete Blakeman said it was a subjective call. It seems pretty objective to me that it was a dirty play, but that's actually about as far as they could go, because the leg sweep is in a gray area, because the argument for Mac is that he was just trying to keep Burns from the ball. So even though he basically gave Burns a brand new ankle socket, he wasn't flagged, fined, or suspended. But one type of lower body move is completely illegal. So illegal, you pretty much never see it.
Personal foul, chop block, offense, number 28.
Yes, I'm aware that it doesn't look like much, mainly because in my expert otherworldly NFL opinion, that was not a chop block. An actual chop block is where one player hits a guy low while another player hits him high. And for obvious reasons, the NFL has banned all forms of it. What would the obvious reason be? Well, if you get folded backward down to your ankles, it doesn't exactly yield fantastic results. So in 2016, they banned every single version of them, but the most hardcore type had already been banned for years. So they even made the wimpy chop blocks illegal.
This chop block, it's illegal. So is this one. In fact, starting this season, all chop blocks are illegal in the NFL.
But as always, players find a way around things. These days, the worst thing you'll see is a cut block, because a chop block is basically a lifetime prison sentence, while a cut block, a slap on the wrist. But even though cut blocks are legal, hitting someone below the knee can lead to some gnarly stuff, like Brian Cushing tearing his ACL.
Turn around to get it that time is Bilal Powell.
And as brutal as that is, I'm actually glad they're leaving that one in, because at this point, NFL fans call every ban a product of the no-fun league. And while I usually agree, some things should stay illegal, especially when you start talking about unnecessary roughness.
Here's another one. Watch out.
personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Los Angeles, number 3.
The dictionary definition is simply when a player uses excessive or unnecessary force to tackle an opponent. And while that's pretty straightforward, it covers so much that it could be a full video on its own. So for now, we're just gonna start with the fun kind, plain and simple. Like where Johnny Hecker finally got a taste of what it's like to play a contact sport.
I don't know if you want to go around doing that to that guy.
He's going to avoid any kind of penalty. They saw what he did last time. Look, they want revenge.
Gotta love a kicker getting in on the action. But dude looked like a chihuahua trying to hang on with pit bulls. Plus, it was way after the whistle blew, which always draws a flag. Similarly to when Gronk blocked Sergio Brown out of the stadium.
Fourth time tonight.
After the touchdown, personal foul, number 87.
These are the types of unnecessary roughness I can get behind. Because honestly, if you get hurt from this kind of thing, then buddy, the sport might not be for you. Even on the less intense side of unnecessary roughness, things can get out of hand fast. Because in the 80s, Mark Lee tried to take Walter Payton out of the stadium. Yeah, the most unstoppable running back ever. So unsurprisingly, it didn't go well for Mark. He did manage to shove Payton out of bounds, but when he kept going, Payton lashed onto Lee and they went over the bench together. That's probably the one time you can call UR on the running back. But Mark Lee had it coming. Whereas every victim of this next type of dirty move was punished for just existing. Because the next part of UR is all about defenseless players. And of course, the definition for that is just pure legal corporate gibberish for 1,000 words. So make it simple. It's helmet to helmet, helmet to shoulder, face mask, or forearm. And to make it even simpler, I'll just say this. Darren Sproles.
Up. Oh, he gets blasted. The ball is loose, and there's a flag. Now there's a scrum breaking loose.
Definitely contact to the head and neck area.
That is pretty much the definition of a dirty hit on a defenseless player. DeSazer practically hit him with a Mortal Kombat fatality. But believe it or not, that hit could have been even worse. Because at least DeSazer didn't launch himself. AKA, both his feet were still on the ground. When they leave the ground, get what Ryan Clark did to Wes Welker.
7 over the middle. And Ryan Clark laid out Wes Welker.
Wes Welker was fine, but with launches, it comes down to sheer luck. Because when you have no control midair, it can turn a normal hit into a brutal headshot. And that's the whole purpose of the call, to stop brutality. Otherwise, he's seeing stuff like this every play.
Curley gets sandwiched and he loses a helmet. And now Curley is injured.
Curley got caught in the nastiest threesome ever, got a concussion, and still finished the game. And obviously that deserves respect, but it happens way more than you think, because Devontae Adams got the same treatment in 2017, but this time it ended with a knockout.
Up the middle screen to Adams. Ooh, he got popped in the face. Oh my! Mouth guard comes out and they're asking for help right away.
That hit had him out cold before he even hit the ground. And even though the refs caught that one and suspended Danny Trevathan for the hit, they must have been eating a hot dog when Adams' second knockout happened.
Ton of time, throws deep downfield. Adams cannot haul it in. And Devontae is still down.
That's got to be one of the most egregious helmet-to-helmet no-calls I've ever seen. You really can't get much more defenseless than being mid-fall, which makes it pretty wild to know that this only became a real concern in 2010. See, even though helmet-based hits were made illegal in 1982, it was still pretty common practice all the way to the 2000s. Then, one man changed everything, James Harrison, because he was the final nail in the fun coffin of NFL hits. And his hit on Mohamed Massaquoi is Exhibit A.
Massaquoi was drilled. Oh my goodness.
That was the hit that changed the NFL. Pure helmet-to-helmet to your defenseless player. And from there on out, helmet-based hits went from a flag and maybe a fine to serious crackdowns from the NFL. Not gonna lie though, it's kind of hard to believe that that's the hit that changed the league. Earlier in the season, Harrison straight up flip-folded and dropped Vince Young on that play, and only got fined $5,000. Guess it wasn't a cheap enough hit, which can only be used to describe hits on a QB slide. Because when a QB starts sliding, that's basically his signal that he's giving himself up. So the second he starts going down, the play is basically over. And since the QB is completely defenseless, even a light love tap will be deemed unnecessary roughness. But these hits are never light. And if a defender could have stopped, like Azeez Al-Shaair, then it's always dirty.
Represents that well. And oh my, that'll be Al-Shaair who's flagged for the big hit on the slide, and that's going to start a little bit of a scrum afterwards as the Jaguars come in to protect their QB.
Azeez didn't even make an attempt to pull away. It was actually the opposite, since he put his forearm up to protect himself. But that's just the most recent example. One of the most famous ones came when Kiko Alonso took off Joe Flacco's head.
Running, and he's going to have to... Oh, now the ball comes out, helmet's off. Watch this, Joe with a good run, slides. Oh.
Oh wait, that was just the football. But it easily could have been his head if that hit was any harder. And in Ted Bridgewater's case, Marcus Joyner hit him so hard he went out like a light.
4, 5, 6 different cadences. There was no doubt about it that Bridgewater was going to slide.
But as wild as that is, a case where you could argue that the hit wasn't intentional, because Teddy started sliding right as Joyner started crouching for the hit. And obviously, Joyner doesn't have lightning reflexes, but you can see him begin to turn right before he makes contact with Teddy's head. What I'd say, even if it's a love tap, unnecessary roughness. But all those unnecessary roughness calls kind of pale in comparison to the mother of all UR calls, late hits.
And Rob Gronkowski, Gronk gets up and jams his shoulder into the Bills defender who intercepted it.
Yes, a lot of QB slide hits can be considered late hits, but I'm talking hits that are way after the player's out of bounds, way after they've scored, or just when the play is beyond dead. See, a lot of unnecessary roughness calls can be chalked up to football being a violent sport. Bad calls, lack of intent, or whatever you want the excuse to be. Late hits are essentially when a player fully hears the whistle and then decides they don't care. And maybe the best example of what I'm talking about is what happened to Jim McMahon. See, the '85 Bears is one of the best teams of all time with one of the best records of all time, 15-1. So in 1986, they were trying to do it again, back-to-back. But one Packers player, Charles Martin, was not going to let that happen.
That is ridiculous. He should be out of the game.
You can practically feel Jim McMahon's shoulder just crunch. That hit basically ruined their season. Rightfully so, they ejected him and handed out a multi-game suspension, but the damage was done. McMahon was out for the rest of the season, and the Bears would just come short of repeating history, going 14-2. So in the right scenario, late hits could ruin an entire season. But some unnecessary roughness hits are so extreme, violent, or just straight up weird that it's hard to call them UR. Like Tony Siragusa's career-ending hit on Rich Gannon. But this wasn't your typical wrap-up tackle, because Siragusa straight up pancaked Rich Gannon's neck.
It's Siragusa, I can't tell. Maybe I spoke too soon. I don't know what he heard. No. Oh, Siragusa just falls on him. That's what it is. 342 pounds.
It may just look like a regular hit. That sack literally ruined Gannon's career. Turns out 300 pounds of fat landing on your neck kind of deletes your chances of making it to the Super Bowl. The refs didn't call anything, but even if they did, what would it be for? Falling? Yeah, I don't think the fans would have bought that one. But something the fans did clamor on was for an unnecessary roughness call on Joe Turkey Jones. Because what he did to Terry Bradshaw has to be one of the most vicious hits of all time. This time, the hit was called unnecessary roughness, but I feel like a 15-yard penalty isn't nearly enough for nearly turning the guy into a quadriplegic. If that happened today, they'd probably eject, fine, and suspend the guy for half the season. I don't think I've ever seen Sue or Perfect hit something that crazy. We all know that playing in the 70s to 90s wasn't nearly as safe as it is today, but it was especially unsafe because of one player.
And Nugget is slammed down by Chuck Cecil.
Chuck Cecil. And he was famous for a very popularizing specific type of dirty move, spearing. And spearing was the OG form of the launch. Whereas guys like Ryan Clark jumped off the ground into a hit, Chuck would lower his head like a bull and just full sprint into people. No turning, no bracing, just praying that their spine broke before his. Seriously, that was his only plan. The move was actually outlawed 12 years before he started playing, but he must have missed the memo on that. And he wasn't just doing it to opponents. His own team said Cecil was reckless to the point of being dangerous, because he was literally just addicted to the body spearing aspect. And sometimes he wouldn't even hit the right team. But in 1993, his hardest, dirtiest hit ever took off Ron Middleton's helmet while strapped.
And keep an eye on the middle of the field. Chuck Cecil just nailed Middleton, PJ.
Ron probably woke up in another time zone after that. Like, damn. But eventually, things did happen, as Chuck was fined $30,000. So you'd think Chuck would decide to chill out after that one. Nope. He played for 2 more years, 30 as ever, then left the NFL in 1995. And ironically, he ended up retiring because of his hits. Because Cecil estimated that he suffered 50 to 60 concussions during his playing days. That kind of number makes Gronk's 20 look like rookie numbers. Personally, I'm shocked he hasn't crashed out yet with all that CTE. But the Saints got hit with instant punishment for their specific type of dirty play. Listen, we all know the story behind Bountygate. The Saints defensive coach outlined a program for players that earn money for hard tackles. People found out, no more Saints dominance. Well, was there ever Saints dominance? Debatable. Regardless, they were torn apart for the rarest kind of dirty move, maybe ever. See, making a hit in the heat of the moment is one thing, but the Saints basically committed premeditated roughness, which is something that hadn't been seen since the 1989 Bounty Bowl, which is what puts their dirty moves into a different category. It wasn't some random late hit. hit. It was a game plan. But even though the Saints get their own category, they still don't come close to the dirtiest move of all time. And the weird thing about this one is that it was technically legal at the time, but the fallout was so bad that it was basically the reason the whole defenseless receiver clause even exists. The 70s Raiders would be the team to make the NFL rewrite its rulebook, because in the 70s, the Raiders were basically an outlaw biker gang. The team didn't just have one dirty player, they built their entire brand around being dirty. And Raiders safety Jack Tatum was the poster child of their dirty and violent hits. He'd lay out players so hard, they'd be lying motionless for minutes while he stood over them taunting, no remorse. He even knocked Earl Campbell unconscious before he hit the ground. But when the Patriots played the Raiders in 1978, Tatum took it to a life-changing level. Because when the Patriots snapped the ball, wide receiver Darryl Stingley was in the middle of running a route when this happened.
And you hit a guy, and you always expect him to get up. And Stingley just didn't get up.
Both players were at full speed, but Darryl's life completely slowed down after that. Because Tatum didn't just hurt him, he paralyzed him from the chest down, and Stingley would never walk again. The play isn't even the dirtiest part of it. It's the fact that Tatum never apologized. Not once, even in passing. He's always maintained that it was a clean hit, and that it was the result of playing a dangerous sport. And in a way, he was right. That type of hit was normal, which is exactly why the NFL rewrote the rulebook and changed the game forever.